A very good evening to you. Very good evening to you all. It is the 13th of August, and this is the Connoisseurs of Wrestling, where we talk about the old time wrestling. I'm your host, Taker's Minion. My regular co-host, Biff Kensington, is a bit under the weather. He is currently out of commission and will be for a little while. We hope you feel better, Biff. I'm joined. The show would not be complete without the what's the word I'm looking for? The curator of wrestling history, the one and only Legendslover. Hello, babe. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing pretty good. A little sore and tired, but
yeah, that's true. It's as some of you or all of you know, she had surgery on her shoulder on the 29th of June, and now is going through her physical torture.
yes,
So
very much torture.
yes. And this week, someone graciously agreed at the last minute to do this. One half of the Two Guys, One Sports podcast on Thursday nights at 9 Eastern, I believe. Is that correct?
That is correct, sir.
George Atsaves. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, sir. Good evening, ma'am. I have big shoes to fill with Mr. Kensington III being under the weather, and I will do my very best to try to fill them. Thank you for having me on the show.
Thank you for coming in, like I said, on such short notice. And you're still
it's an honor.
And you're still a rat bastard for being at that game last night.
I am a rat bastard. I was at Wrigley Field last night when a miracle happened.
Yes.
And Mr. Minion is a little jealous.
I am. But I got one on you, so
yes.
I got to see Sosa hit his 62nd.
You're the rat bastard, my friend.
Mm-hmm.
It's fitting that you would see, as versed in history as you are, that you would be there live for it,
I was also there live for Harry's last time singing "Take Me Out to the Ball Game."
You are also a rat bastard again, my friend. You're a good guy and a bastard at the same time.
Oh, so are you, Mr. George. So are you.
Legendslover, you have your work cut out for you as always, keeping him contained.
Nothing new.
I can keep myself contained. First of all, we have some sad news to report this evening. One Jim the Anvil Neidhart passed away today. He apparently had fallen at home and suffered some head injuries. He had been ill from what everything points to, but he had fallen at home in Florida and had injured his head, and passed away early this morning. So to the Hart family, to the Neidharts, and to wrestling fans in general, we all would like to wish Mr. Neidhart happy trails, and may you finally rest in peace, sir.
Well said. And next week, we'll be doing a bit of a retrospective on his career.
Yes.
But I wish nothing but peace and serenity to his family in this hard time.
I do as well, and I'm sure all the fans of Connoisseurs of Wrestling feel the same way.
Agreed.
Now, on to the main topic of the evening. We're going to be talking about a man tonight who started in 1972. That was his debut. Trained by one Verne Gagne. Gee, Verne Gagne has touched so many wrestlers.
He is so... We could do a 4-hour show just on Verne and the AWA.
Yes.
And still only scratch the surface of his importance to this business in the past 70 years.
I know one person that would be listening intently. That would be Daddy Atsaves.
Yes, I would send him the file for sure and make him listen.
Father Atsaves would be listening, going,
he would.
Very good.
He would brew himself a cup of coffee, sit on the porch, roll up a cigar, and listen. But hopefully I'll get him to listen to this one, because this gentleman is also one of my dad's all-time favorites.
Oh,
I'll let
wow.
you. Oh, of course. I mean, how could you not, right?
Well, and that's why you have so much knowledge of Ric Flair. You got it from at your father's knee.
I have been blessed that I have grown up in this. You know what? I mean, we talk about it all the time. Wrestling can be terrible, but wrestling can also be great. And when it is great, when it is practiced by the greats that we talk about on this show, there's nothing better.
No, there isn't. That is one thing for sure. There's nothing better than great professional wrestling to watch.
And that's something I hopefully can bring to the table during my guest star run on this show until Mr. Kensington gets well.
Yes, we want him to get well. You know, it's not the same show without him. He's like I said, big shoes to fill, but I'm going to try my best. Could you imagine trying to fill in for me there, George?
No. I mean, it would be like, you know how like Mr. Pibb is bad Dr. Pepper? It would be like that.
Oh, please, no, don't sell yourself short.
It would be like that, my friend.
Don't sell yourself short. You're not, you know, I try to be like you and Chris with these shows. You know, you guys are my heroes because you're the ones that I listened to first. And then Fizz got me involved in it, so it's all connected.
It's all connected, and I look at you. I joke with Chris all the time that you're our godfather, Taker's minion. You know, like Mike Vito Corleone sitting there petting the cat.
That's some pretty big shoes for me to be in.
Let me ask you a question. You got a pen and paper or something to take? So let me ask you a question.
I got something to write on. Sure.
I'm gonna give you 5 categories, and this is about Ric Flair.
Oh boy, here we go.
You ready? You got a pen and paper. I want you to write these 5 categories.
Yeah, okay.
First one, charisma. Second one, promo ability. Third one, in-ring ability. Next, drawing power. Put asses in seats, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And next, 5th is longevity.
Jeez.
Okay? I want you to look at those 5 tools that make up a professional wrestler, right? I want you to look at those 5 things that are all important to the total package, not Lex Luger, of a professional wrestler, right?
Yeah.
If you were to rank, and I'm not asking you to do it, but if you were to rank each of those categories, like who the most charismatic of all time, who the most drawing ability of all time, who the best promo of all time, like if you were to rank guys, you know what I'm saying, from 1 to 10, Ric Flair would be top 5 or better in all of those categories.
I would agree.
He is, at worst, the 3rd best wrestler of all time in terms of in-ring ability. At worst. And the only people I would put ahead of him definitively are Stan Hansen and Kenta Kobashi. And you can, and I would listen to an argument that Ric Flair is ahead of those 2.
Oh,
you know, I'm saying at worst he's 3rd.
Right, at worst he's 3rd.
Yeah.
I would put him lower than 4th, and I would add one person to that group.
Who would you add? Don't
forget Bruiser Brody.
No, don't. He, at the very least, he is in that upper echelon. If I said to you two, Ric Flair is the best in-ring worker of all time, you two would say, okay, there is an argument there, right?
Yes,
and if I said to you, Ric Flair is the best promo of all time,
no, I would argue that point.
You would say, yes, there is an argument there, right?
Yes,
you could say
my argument would be one of the best promo ever is Dusty.
Okay.
Dusty
but Ric Flair, he's a top 5 promo.
Yes, he is.
I mean, it's Dusty, it's Flair. He's in that conversation. Like Steve Austin's in that conversation. But Rick is in the conversation, right?
Yes.
Charisma, obviously, very subjective, incredibly subjective. But you know this because you've seen him live, and I've seen him live. When Ric Flair is in that ring, guys, you never took your eyes off him for a second.
Nope.
No matter what he was doing, no matter even if he was standing on the apron in a tag, you never took your eyes off Ric Flair
because you always could see him thinking. And
that's charisma, is it not?
yeah, that's charisma. But you could also look at him and see him. And this is one thing that was great about him when he was talking about charisma. And this is charisma and in-ring working together. You know, Rick would not really set up a match, so to speak. They go over basics.
Yeah.
Who's going over, you know, and certain moves, what the finish was, and certain moves they wanted to get in during the match. But they wouldn't have a specific place or a specific order of things being done. Rick would, and as a heel, and those of us in the know, heels are the ones that call the match while they're in the ring.
Yes.
So while the match was going on, Rick would listen to the crowd.
It's a lost art.
He would listen to the crowd, and it's like when he had his run of matches with Sting. They were in the corner, you know, and Rick was always famous for the chop. And he was tied up to push him back to and he's telling Sting, no, sell the chop. No, sell the chop. This is time. It's time for you to, you know, to mount your comeback. And Sting will say, I didn't know why he was telling me to do that, but I did it anyway. And he said the crowd went banana in the famous words of
in the Clash of the Champions match, the first one in '88.
Yep. And
here's how you know Ric Flair is one of the best workers of all time. If I went to a time machine, if I built a time machine and I took 1984 Ric Flair, right in the absolute middle of his prime, and I plucked him from that time machine, he would fit in. He would be up to the 2018 standard of in-ring excellence. He would surpass the 2018. He would not get lost, is what I'm saying.
No, he would be top guy.
Yeah, you could put Ric Flair in the G1, and you would not skip a beat, and he would be just as good as those guys. And you could put him in the WWE, and he'd be better than those guys. And you could put him in Mexico, and he could work the Mexican style. He could work the Jap because he did. He worked all over the world. He wrestled in Japan and Korea and China and India and Russia and Serbia and Greece and England and France and Portugal and Brazil and the US and Mexico and Puerto Rico and everywhere. And he wrestled all those styles, and he was great at all of them.
I think he even wrestled in Moscow and in Beijing, if memory serves.
Wouldn't shock me. He wrestled in Pyongyang.
Okay.
Yeah, in North Korea. And you know what? And he sold seats everywhere. He sold seats everywhere because he was a great heel, and he was an underrated babyface.
Yes.
I have homework for you, Takers, Minion, and LL. Watch some of those Flair and Terry Funk feud matches from 1989, where Flair's the babyface and Terry Funk is the maniacal, vicious bastard heel.
Yes.
Like the I Quit match.
Where he made Terry quit.
Yep. And Ric Flair, babyface, is just as good as Rick. Because we see Ric Flair and we see the, limousine riding, jet flying, wheeling, and we see the heel and the alligator shoes and the studio stuff on Crockett and him breaking Dusty's leg. You know what I'm saying? Whatever, right? And that is great. And he was awesome at it. And you wanted to see him get his ass kicked. But Ric Flair, the babyface, is just as good. Mm-hmm. And I would argue Ric Flair, the latter career stuff, especially from like 05 to like 06, 07, after Evolution, but before he retired, where he's the desperate old man trying to hang on, like that stuff's just as good. In terms of getting you to care about because that's what wrestling is. Do I care, regardless of anything else? Do I care about your character? Right. So, however I care about your character, I need to care about your character, and that's what Ric Flair could do. I always gave a shit. You never not cared about Ric Flair, and he has been a part of my wrestling life since the beginning. I don't remember watching wrestling without Ric Flair being a huge part of it.
Yeah.
So he is an absolute legend and deserving of every accolade and more. And he is in my opinion, the best overall wrestler in the history of the world. Like, if you are designing a professional wrestler from scratch, you would go and get 1983 Ric Flair and say, that's the one I want. You know, like that's the guy. Like if we played a game where you could have any wrestler, you know, jumpstart your promotion in 2018. Let's say you and me, Takers, we're building a wrestling company, and we have a time machine. And in this time machine, we can bring back one wrestler from his prime to jumpstart our promotion. We're picking Ric Flair.
I would agree with that. The second pick would be, I'd say, early 2000. You know, the early 2000s Undertaker.
Sure, because it'd be a great foil. You know, it'd be a perfect foil. But they had you know, we have to thank their WrestleMania match is awesome.
Yeah, we have to thank Triple H for the second. You know, you said that right at, you know, the whole thing with Ric Flair after the Evolution time.
Mm-hmm.
That was Triple H's doing.
Yeah,
and Triple H helped Rick get his confidence back.
Yes, after the WCW disaster.
Exactly, and you know what? Kudos to, as much as sometimes we can't stand the authority, Triple H was a shrewd businessman and he
understands his history.
He does. He is someone like us.
Watch the WrestleMania 02 Undertaker Ric Flair match, and it's when Undertaker's doing the biker gimmick.
Yes,
and he's the heel, and Ric Flair is the valiant babyface. And Arn Anderson delivers an awesome spine buster. It's your kind of match. It's on the network. WrestleMania 2002.
I've seen that match many times, and I'll tell you, that was the match that gave Undertaker 10 in a row.
Oh yeah.
And one thing Rick talks about in that match is that, you know, the throw him in the corner, he dies, flips over the ropes, runs down the apron to the other side. He missed it the first time. And Taker said to him, as you know, a couple minutes later, "You want to try it again? You want to try it again? Here we go again." And he threw him in, and they got it the second time.
I may watch that match when we're done here, because it is a master class as to how you can be good at wrestling while being past your physical peak. Like the analogy I always use.
Gentlemen, spoiler alert. We that might be match of the week for George.
I think it may be match of the. Well, I mean, I don't know what we're doing this week because we got a huge show. It may be match of the week this week, and if not this week, then for sure next week.
Mm-hmm.
It is a.
Stay tuned.
The analogy I like is picture a baseball pitcher who doesn't have his fastball anymore because he's a little older, but he knows how to pitch and he knows how to locate his breaking ball and the changeup. You know, he's smarter, he's more savvy. He may not be able to throw 95 anymore, but he can still get batters out.
CC Sabathia.
That's exactly it.
That could be our match of the week.
Should be. Like, and that is what Ric Flair was in the WWE, the evolution and post-evolution. Like he still put together great matches. The Ric Flair Triple H matches are awesome. Last Man Standing and we talked about The Undertaker, and he still knows what he's doing. He just the fastball is not as good.
No, you know, we got like I said, we got CC Sabathia, we got Bartolo Colon.
Exactly.
You know, those are guys that came out as flamethrowers. And you look at them now; they're the crafty old veteran.
Exactly. You know, Lakeland, Greg Maddox. That will throw the 78-mile-an-hour change in a situation, and you'll look stupid chasing it,
and that requires a 95-mile-an-hour fastball.
Exactly. You know, what's your favorite Ric Flair match, guys?
My favorite Ric Flair.
I mean, it's like picking your favorurt kid. You know,
yeah, no kidding. My favorite Ric Flair match.
One of the Undertaker match.
Is that match between The Undertaker and Ric Flair.
So good.
It is, you know, the psychology used in that match is here's an old man that, you know, like you said, well past his prime. And he was. In 2002, he was. You know, he had been wrestling for 30 years at that point. And he had the plane crash with the broken back and told he was never going to walk. And here he is in the ring taking back bumps in his late 40s at that point. And, nobody and selling, and nobody, and I mean nobody, could bleed like Ric Flair.
Nobody could sell like Ric Flair.
No, I've seen people close to his level selling today, but no, the Rick would oversell to the point that you would believe it.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the key. I love his, when you hit him, he comes out of the corner, 1, 2, and takes the face plant.
Yep. And he puts the hands up, and he's
down
the man.
Down on his knees. Oh, no. Begging off. The master of begging off.
Yep.
Rick was a god. Rick is a wrestling god.
Yeah, he is. Even at his advanced age, he had great matches with Triple H, Edge, and Shawn Michaels.
Oh, that match with Shawn Michaels, the retirement.
That was my favorite match.
That was a great match.
The retirement match?
Yep. That was a good match. Ric Flair's very last match with H. Period. He chose HBK.
He was the perfect combination of star power, promo ability, work rate. I mean, he's everything you want in an ace of your company. Yep. Heel, baby face, he did it all. If you want to wrestle submission style, he'll wrestle submission style with Nick Bockwinkel and do technical stuff. If you want to brawl, he'll brawl with Harley Race in a cage, or Dusty in a cage. If you want to do lucha stuff, he'll do lucha stuff with Rey Mysterio in WCW. Like if you want to do Japanese stuff, he'll do Japanese stuff with Inoki. I mean, whatever you want him to do, he would do it, and he would do it better than you. Like, he's the only negative is that he hung on too long.
Yeah,
but
after he left WWE and went to TNA,
I'm not going to tell a man how he can't earn his living, though.
No, I'm not either. But I was.
But it was.
I saw some of it. And it's bad. It's really bad. It was. They made him a caricature of what he was.
It was bad. My favorite Ric Flair match is from Christmas Day 1982, and it's Ric Flair, the touring NWA champion in Dallas, against Kerry Von Erich in a cage. And Michael Haynes is the special referee. And the match eventually devolves into the beginnings of the Freebird and Von Erich feud, which was like 3 years of awesome matches.
You're not kidding.
But before that match, Ric Flair does the threads the needle, guys. And by that, I mean he makes Kerry Von Erich look good, but at the same time keeps himself credible. Because he's still the champ. But Von Erich's the local guy. So his job as the champ is to make Von Erich look like $1 million. But the old bastard's just a little bit better. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So it's on the network. The Christmas Day 1982 WCCW. It's in the special archive of the network, where they keep all the old stuff. And I would highly recommend anyone listening to this show see it. And if you are an aspiring wrestler and you say, I want to emulate the best, emulate Ric Flair in this match, and you will go very far. So,
wow!
Don't emulate Ric Flair afterwards when he, went to the bar and stayed up all night. Get your sleep.
That's the thing. That was the one thing about it, is that he would be up to 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. Would go to bed for an hour or two and go to the gym.
Yep. And he would wrestle 6 days a week and twice on Sunday.
Yep. You do 7 matches in 6 days.
Yep.
And
Christmas and New Year's and Thanksgiving and don't matter.
Well, that was his thing. Work hard, play hard.
Yep. And his thing was work hard, play hard all over the world.
and work an hour Broadway night after night after night,
house after house.
Yes,
and I think
and
it's
in the
remiss.
same-
Oh, go on.
and-
Sorry.
and then to go to that territory and make that top baby face look like he's gonna do it. He's gonna do it. Oh, damn it! They ran out of time.
We got to come back next month.
Yes.
When he's back, when that bastard's back, we got to come back.
Exactly. People paid big money to see him lose, and the man hardly ever lost. Well, he lost it 16 times.
But I mean, he
Officially 16 times. And there are several other things, like down in Puerto Rico, he had to give up the title, and he went back a month later and got it back, but that was never recognized by the NWA. There's a lot of politics involved, and that was another thing that he was great at. As we segue on into Warrior's career,
the most important thing in wrestling is be safe, and the second most important thing is make your opponent look good. And he was great at both of those.
Yes, he was.
Because if your opponent doesn't look good, you don't look good.
No, and that's one of the problems with wrestlers today. They're so worried about
Getting their own shit in.
Getting their own shit in, and their high flying shit. There is one guy on the current roster right now, and this is going to cause some controversy when I say this. There's one guy on the current WWE roster right now that makes his opponents look good and himself look good at the same time. And you know who that is?
I have a guess.
It's Roman Reigns.
Yep.
Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns gets it.
But the fans don't.
That's right. The fans don't. Another one that's good at it is John Cena. Randy Orton isn't very good at it at all. He's more worried about himself. He's always been that way, though. Yes, I'm creating controversy. And in the famous words of Bischoff, controversy creates cash.
It's a lost art.
It is.
It is to make your what a lot of wrestlers, too many wrestlers don't understand is that if you make your opponent look good and you beat your opponent, congrats, you just beat someone who looks good. If you make your opponent look like shit and you beat a guy who looks like shit, big fucking deal. You beat a guy who looks like shit.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Like what does that make you like?
Just a step above shit.
Exactly. How does that help you any? So
one of the greatest one of the greatest ones right now of more worried about themselves and more and boy, this is going to cause controversy, is Alexa Bliss.
Yes.
She is terrible in the ring. She cannot make her opponents look good. She doesn't want to sell. She doesn't want to take a bump.
You know who else is not very good at making their opponents look good?
Who's that?
Seth Rollins.
Yeah.
Seth Rollins.
But
I like Seth Rollins. I like Seth Rollins a lot. And I like him now that he's 100% healthy from the knee injury, because you could tell he was not healthy for a while, even when he was wrestling.
He's having some of the greatest matches of his career right now in WWE.
Yes, but he is not very good at making his selling is very inconsistent. He will take a beating and then not sell when it's his chance, when it's his turn to get his shit in. Like it's not very disciplined, his style of wrestling.
No.
So.
But
we're losing the thread.
Yes, we're losing the
Another good seller is Natty. If you want to look at females, look at Natty. Natty can sell anything. She's always making people look good.
Natalia is a great carpenter. Always has been. That's one thing that the Heart Dungeon always taught you. Look at Brett. Look at Owen. Look at them all. That came out of that dungeon.
Fluidity.
They were great sellers, great workers in the ring. And Natty gets so much grief because she's more of a ground-based technical wrestler from old school days, because that's how she was trained. Don't hold that against her. I say honor that, cherish that, because that's a lost art right in itself. I don't think there's not one person in this group right here that would disagree with that.
No,
technical wrestling like that, grounded, is a lost art. Everybody wants this flying through the air where people are getting hurt.
That's a whole other issue. Suicide dives, but we won't go into that one.
Which she does, even though she's a technical wrestler and sound like she is.
Here's the thing about Ric Flair, though. He never got hurt because he was smart.
Yes.
He didn't land on his head or land on his neck, or he didn't have to. Like, he didn't have to suplex guys on the top of his head or some bullshit. He was able to get over and stay over and be the man without having to do gimmick shit like that.
No, when he took his falls, he did them on his own.
Yep.
Some of them were really spaced out and wild. Looking dazed and then just falling over. He could face plant himself better than anybody.
Agreed.
And
all of his bumps were safe, guys. He wasn't doing risky, dangerous shit.
No.
He didn't have to.
No, the only injury Rick really ever suffered from was the broken back in the plane crash.
Yeah, and he took a bump in a plane crash. That's not fair.
Yeah.
You know?
And like I said, they said he would never walk again, let alone wrestle. Well, he
showed everybody.
He told everybody, screw you, and got all the way back. And it made his career that much better.
But if you look at the falls people take, most of the falls that Rick took, he took on he did it himself.
It came,
you give him a fist to the forehead or whatever, and he'd walk a little bit, and all of a sudden, he'd face plant himself. He did most of that himself, which was safe for him.
Yeah. And any body slam or back bump he took, actually, he would take more on his left side. That was just because of what happened after the plane crash. He wanted the flat back, but he got so trained. His body got so trained, it was automatic for him to land more on his left.
Like Daniel Bryan. When Daniel lands, look how he lands now.
Yeah, his hands hit the mat first.
He does it in such a way his shoulder and his neck don't hit. He turns sideways a bit.
Yeah, people don't see the differences of what he does now.
Nope, when people get hurt, seriously hurt, and you figure how long it takes them to recover, they learn to do things differently so they don't bug that injury.
It makes you what? Makes you what? Go ahead.
And it just stays with them. Even after they're healed, it stays with you where you still kind of favor that.
Mm-hmm. Makes you wonder how many nights over the years of his wrestling career did Rick actually work with a nagging injury of some kind.
I'm sure many. I'm sure all of them.
And now, nowadays, if they got Hong Kong hangnails, they're not wrestling.
It's a different era. But the thing is, Flair would belong in any era. And that's how you know he's one of the greats. He would be at home in any era.
I could see him in the era of catch wrestling.
No, absolutely. Yeah.
Where matches went 6-7 hours. You know?
Yeah. And guys were huge. Yes, absolutely.
You know, or could you imagine him in a match with Stu Hart and Stu Hart stretching the hell out of him?
Oh, I'm sure, and vice versa. Can you imagine him in a match today against Kasukata and going blow for blow or something? Or can you imagine a match 10 years ago against or 20 years ago against like a Stan Hansen or an Inoki or wait, we saw it all.
Yeah, we saw those matches.
You know?
We saw those matches. We saw matches with Brody. We saw matches with Hansen, with Inoki, with Giant Baba.
And Tsuruta and Misawa and Atlantis and Igor Casas and Andre and whomever, and they were great because he was great. Like he is the perfect professional wrestler.
Speaking of Negro Casas,
yeah, sure.
A couple of weeks ago, I guess Negro Casas is a face now.
Really?
Yeah, because they did a 40-year anniversary for him. He's been in the business 40 years.
And he looks awesome.
Yes, he still looks good.
Yeah.
You know. And he had his wife and his kids. He's got young kids down there in Arena, Mexico, and it was great to see. And then they had like a Legends match. It was it's on YouTube. I have to look it up, but man, what a match that was. I watched it and I was like, oh my God. It was a great match to watch. I mean, and his Negro Casas' team won and the crowd went crazy. So somewhere along the line, Negro Casas has switched from rudo to technical. And
I'm sure he's great at it because he's Negro freaking Casas. You know?
Negro Casas is the Ric Flair of CMLL.
Yes, he is.
Plain and simple. He has more charisma in his little finger than anybody else on that damn roster.
Yeah, he does. And he's still one of the best wrestlers in the world. At his age, at 55 or 60 or whatever he is.
He's 55.
So, I mean, him and Atlantis are still killing guys.
Yep.
So.
Every Friday night, you can catch it on Collateral Sports.
Yep, and it's well worth the watch.
And it's free, ladies and gentlemen. It's free.
Or they put it on YouTube sometimes or Collateral Sports. And CML Friday nights is a great show.
Hell, they have one Monday night.
It's a perfect way to unwind after a long work week, you know?
And yes, the Rush and LA Park is a Lucha de Puestos.
Nice.
Rush,
that's like next month, right?
Yeah, and Rush accepted.
Yeah. I'd love to be there live for that.
Why do I get yes, it would be. Well, why do I get the feeling LA Park is gonna lose the mask?
Oh, man.
Again.
I don't know. But you know what? It'll be a hell of a fall.
Because Rush, I don't think Rush wants to lose his hair. I mean, he's got some.
No, and to be fair, that is very nice looking hair.
It is. It's long. It is long and curly, and I'm not funny on men, but he's got some gorgeous hair.
It's very, very good looking hair. Him and Roman Reigns should have a hair off.
They should have a hair match. Ooh, book it.
Book it.
But we're way off track here.
That's okay. It's us. It's you and me. We're just shooting the breeze, right? Oh wait, that's Saturdays.
That's Saturdays. But no, Rick was something else. I mean, he would go into territories
and pop houses.
And pop houses, and it didn't matter to him if he was working in front of 5 people or 105,000 people. He would give his best every night. That's one of the reasons why NWA kept him as champion.
And that's one of the reasons why NWA was able to weather the Hogan storm when everyone else went under. Crockett was able to weather the storm.
Yes.
And that matters.
Yeah, it does. And people don't give Flair the credit for that, which is sad. It's really sad.
We're going to talk about Ric Flair, and we need to talk about, in my opinion, his greatest opponent, and that's Ricky Steamboat.
Oh, God.
The trilogy of matches they had are still hold up, first of all, which you cannot say about all matches from the late 80s. Like, if you had 2 guys doing those matches move for move, it would fit right in, you know? But more importantly, it was something I hate a lot about current wrestling is this prevalence of tweeners, right? Pick a side. Somebody wore the white hat, Ricky Steamboat. Somebody wore the black hat, Ric Flair, and go at it.
Well,
wrestling's not complicated, guys.
Well, here's the thing, and this is something that a lot of people don't know. The trio of matches you're talking about was well after they had wrestled 200-300 times prior to that.
All over the world, yeah.
All over the world. In territories all over the world. And I mean, this is, ladies and gentlemen, you hear people talk about kayfabe. Okay? This is how strong kayfabe was during the original feud of Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, or Ricky Steamboat, not known as the Dragon, he was just Ricky Steamboat, and Ric Flair. after a match one night, I don't know, they don't remember where it was. I don't remember where Rick said it was. Rick was at a 7-Eleven holding court with fans. Ricky had drove up to the same 7-Eleven and waited in his car for 15 minutes before he even went in. Because you didn't want baby faces and heels in the same location at all.
No.
So finally he had to go in because he wanted something that he wanted, lovely food that they ate, all that junk, garbage food that you could buy at 7-Eleven. Ricky walks in, sees Flair from behind, walks over, spins him around in front of about a dozen people, and yells in Rick's face and walks out.
Yeah.
And
that's the stuff right there.
That is keeping the kayfabe.
And you know what?
They had a feud going on. They had a feud going on, and out in the general public, they're still carrying the story.
And you know what? A month later, when they returned back to that little podunk town, I bet all dozen of those people and all their friends were in attendance.
I'm sure they were.
I mean,
that's old-time wrestling. Yep. That's the best kind.
And that's what I love about this show. Is picking your brains and talking to you two about the old days.
Nothing better than the old days.
No, I mean, I'll talk the modern stuff on my show, but I like coming on this show because I can just sit back, relax, and just reminisce.
And remember, it's like me as Little Taker as a kid.
As Little Taker.
Watching, Bruiser and Crusher and Von Raschke and Wahoo McDaniels and Ernie Ladd. And
let's see, that's another thing about this show where we can bring up the past, the old time, and bring up the new, bring it together and show the differences.
Exactly.
How it evolved.
There is no one, like I said, there's really no one on the roster right now, men's roster, that can sell as good as Rick. But there's one close, and that's Roman. Roman's close.
Roman's problem is that he's too good at selling. They have him sell at all. They have him sell for 90% of the matches he's in, which is a waste of his talent.
Yes. It is. It is. And it's a crying shame.
I'm trying to think. The only guy on the men's roster who can bump like Ric Flair is probably AJ Styles.
Yes.
But even he's starting to get a little old, and he's starting to slow down a little bit, and that's understandable.
And people are saying now that AJ Styles is not good anymore.
That's ridiculous. He hasn't had a good feud. It doesn't mean he's not a good wrestler.
Exactly.
I guarantee you, if you said AJ wrestle someone for 25 minutes and blow the door off the place.
I just thought of a dream match that.
Sure.
And it has to do with the guy we're talking about tonight.
Ooh.
AJ Styles as the pure white meat babyface versus the truest, the dirtiest player in the game, the blackest of hats, Ric Flair, in a match in a no DQ match for the title.
And you know what makes it great is you have a clear good guy and a clear bad guy,
and them going to it.
Fans want to get invested in that stuff.
And those two going to an hour Broadway.
Absolutely.
That would be amazing. That would be an amazing match. Because AJ Styles can mat wrestle.
Yes. You can do it all. AJ's one of the best I've ever seen.
Remember, he was over in New Japan Dojo for 5 years? Yeah,
he went to New Japan and he went to finishing school. Like 2013 to 2016, and some of those matches, Takers, you would love. I know you would love some of those because it is very reminiscent of how, not like Japanese wrestling now with all the fast-paced stuff, but how Japanese wrestling used to be in like the 90s and the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
So I will get some links for you to watch some AJ matches from like 2014 or 15 that I know you will love.
Well, it's not easy to impress. It's not easy to make me happy. Just find me all the old school matches you can find. And
but, I mean, these matches are very old school, even though they're only like 3-4 years old.
Mm-hmm.
But you will feel the old school vibes, like when AJ wrestles like Minoru Suzuki and he's clawing for the ropes to try to get out of a leg hold, and Suzuki drags his ass in the ring and slaps him in the face and locks it back on. Like, that's straight out of the Ric Flair school, you know? Like, that's the stuff that you will love. So I will dig some up tomorrow and Wednesday and Thursday if I have time at the office, and I'll try to find some for you.
That's the subtleties of the business. And that is one thing Rick was a master at.
Here's what Rick was a master of too. And this is something that the absolute elites have. And that is knowing how to read a crowd to start your comeback.
And when.
Because there are times where Ric Flair has talked about this, and so have the ultra elites, you know, Hiroshi Tanahashi, Stan Hansen, Bruiser Brody, like the cream of the crop, that if you are in like a submission hold, you can't start your comeback too soon. You got to wait and let the crowd get invested in you. No, please don't tap out.
Yes.
Please don't tap out. And then you start your comeback. Tanahashi would talk about how he would find a little kid in the crowd, and when they started crying, that's when he knew to begin his comeback.
Right.
Like, and that's straight out of the Ric Flair school of wrestling.
That's subtle things.
Yep.
You know, and the thing about it is that fans today don't understand that concept.
No, because they think it's all just spots. It's not spots. Spots are nice, and I pop for big spots too, don't get me wrong. But you know what I pop for more? A guy clawing himself to his feet and throwing a forearm because he won't give up. That's not a spot. That's just wrestling.
Look at one of the prime examples of what you're talking about current day is WrestleMania 31. I think it was. Yes. WrestleMania 31. The very first time we got Roman Brock.
Yep.
Brock was killing Roman.
I love that match.
And Roman kept getting up. Roman kept getting up with a smile. With a smile on his face, going, "Come on, you see his eyes. Come on, use SOB. Let's go."
And then Brock just takes off the gloves, and you know what? That mattered more to that crowd than any number of suicide dives or other things like that. You know
why? Because they were invested in the story.
Exactly, and they were invested in the characters. I'm going to talk about this more on Thursday when and if I do my show on Thursday. Hopefully I do.
I'm hoping so too, because I'm jonesing, man. I'm jonesing.
The finals of the G1 that took place on Sunday had an exchange where old man Tanahashi was getting slapped by the younger guy, and he just looks and he scowls and he flexes and he says, "Hit me again," just like Hulk Hogan in 1984. And the guy slaps him, and he just flexes and he just starts moving forward. You know, and that's when the crowd starts to shake the building. Not for suplexes or suicide dives or flippy-do shit. It's when the old grizzled veteran says, "You know what?
Enough.
You're not good enough. Enough." Like, and that's the wrestling that needs to make a comeback. Like, I mean,
well, I saw that same kind of thing in the 70s.
Yep.
With Dick the Bruiser. You would see him getting beat pillar to post. Then all of a sudden, he'd be in the corner. They'd do a lockup, and they'd go into a corner, and the guy would punch him, and he'd shake it off. And the guy would sit there and look at it, and he'd hit him again, and he'd do the same thing. And then all of a sudden, he'd start dancing and going crazy. He's like, here's another grizzled old veteran, you ain't man enough to take me down yet, you punk. And same. It is something that transcends the generations. And if people would just sit back and let the story be told in the ring, that's supposed to be told here, it would be great. That's, that is one of that I'm going to say this now, and I should probably save it for Saturday, but I'm not going to. I'll reiterate it on Saturday. We have Brock Roman number 4 at SummerSlam. Give us the WrestleMania 31 match. please?
Yes.
And let Roman go over clean, please.
Oh, it's past time. It is past time, my friend.
That's what I would love to see. Is I would love to see that story from WrestleMania 31 told again. Can they recapture that? That is the question.
Mm-hmm. I'm sending you a link right now to the best exchange of that match I was telling you about, the Tanahashi Ibushi G1 Finals, and all it is a slap and a clothesline, and that's it. It's a slap and a clothesline, and it's the best. It's way cooler than any flips or anything else. Like, just watch that. I just sent it to you. Just watch that GIF.
Are you ready to be jealous?
Sure.
My co-host from Saturday morning was at G1 Finals live.
That rat bastard.
I found out Saturday he had tickets.
That bastard. Look at that. Have you pulled it up yet?
No. Let me see.
Pull it up and just all it is a slap and a clothesline, and it's the best. No flippy shit. You know what I'm saying? That's when the crowd really started to get invested.
Wow.
Now tell me you wouldn't see Ric Flair taking that bump that Tanahashi takes, right?
Yeah,
right on his shoulders, nothing dangerous, totally safe.
Yeah, and
it flips over backwards.
Oof.
Yeah, but it's a safe bump.
It is.
It looks vicious. And that is Ric Flair, guys.
That's almost a Stan Hansen level lariat too, by the way.
Yes. That is straight out of the Ric Flair school of how to bump without killing yourself.
Exactly.
Which is a lost art. So
anyone who says different shouldn't be watching wrestling.
No, he is. I mean, he is the greatest American-based wrestler of all time. You know, and I think that's. I don't even think that's controversial.
And when we put together the fans' choice, because Ric Flair was the fans' choice for the show, we posted it, put it out there. We had 4 groups. We had 20 nominees. Then we broke it down to 4.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the 20 nominees is a who's who of people. I mean, we had Undertaker, Stone Cold, Rock, Andre, Randy Macho Man Savage, Steamboat, Dusty. You know, a who's who over generations, many generations of wrestling. And Ric Flair won it by a margin of over 2-1. Yes. He had 52%. The next closest one was 25.
Well deserved.
You know, so I mean, this man like you said, he'll transcend any generation. I'm sure if and when you get married, you're going to teach your kids about the old generations of wrestling.
Yeah, you have to. You got to keep that alive.
You have to explain kayfabe to them, and I would love nothing more than to see kayfabe make a return.
I hope so.
There's one person that was living kayfabe for a long time that really isn't anymore, and that's Undertaker. He lived a gimmick 24/7.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
When he disappeared, he would disappear. He very seldom uses social media.
Absolutely.
Yes, he has an Instagram page, but it's Michelle McCool putting stuff out for us, not him.
Yeah, he lives the gimmick, and I wish more people realize. You know what it is when we say live in the gimmick? You know what that means? Is that he lives the mystery. He keeps the mystery and the mystique.
Exactly.
There's nothing mysterious about the wrestler who's always online.
No.
Yeah. Like another podcast I listened to tells this story. This guy used to go to Ring of Honor matches in New Jersey in like 02, 03, 04.
Mm-hmm.
And it would be like Bryan Danielson and Samoa Joe and a bunch of other people. And he says the only people that and everyone would sell their T-shirts before the match, and everyone would, schmooze with the fans and try to make money, and that's fine, and I understand that. But he says, I went to these shows every month. I never saw Samoa Joe out there. I never saw Bryan Danielson out there, because they realized that in order to be great at wrestling, you need to be a little bit of a mystery. You can't be schmoozing with the fans.
Right.
Because then they realize, hey, this guy's actually shorter than I am. Or,
right.
hey, this guy's smaller than I am. Or, hey, whatever. Like, yep. And that way, when they see you for the first time, it's when you're walking to the ring and you make that a moment for them.
Yes.
Like, that's what we talk about with living the gimmick and being mysterious. So Taker was perfect at that. You with me?
Yeah.
Oh, there we go.
He went to go get coffee.
Oh, good idea. That's a really good idea.
I don't know, Ric Flair is fantasizing on always. He could do so much.
Mm-hmm. He could do it all. He could do anything you wanted. I mean, he could kick your ass with a smile on his face, or he could make you look great, or he could cut promos, or he could draw. He could do anything you wanted. So
the thing is if you listen to him, he wasn't a very good wrestler when it came to technical wrestling itself. He even said it. He wasn't very good at it. He was so good at everything else, it made up for it.
What's that?
Rick, remember he said he wasn't a very good wrestler.
No. He wasn't a very good technical wrestler. He admits that.
But with everything else he was, completely made up for it.
Yep.
Fake it till you make it, right?
Yep. Exactly.
That's why he is so behind his daughter. He even said Charlotte is more of a wrestler than he ever was when it comes to wrestling skill.
Yeah. When it comes to wrestling skill, and yes, I will like, again, controversy creates cash. I'm going to say that again. Charlotte Flair is actually a very good wrestler. She's just not, she's still young and she's still learning and about how to make her opponents look better, but she's getting it, and you can see it happening.
Her thing is she lacks the charisma her father had,
and the promo ability her father had.
Right, and I'm so tired of hearing this from people. She needs to be heel. No, let her be a face. Let her be different than Dad.
Yes.
Here's the perfect analogy, okay? NASCAR. And you'll know this the minute I say, who was the blackest of black hats in NASCAR?
Dale Earnhardt.
Thank you. What did they want Junior to be?
Just like his dad, and it didn't work.
And he said, no, I'm my own man.
And it worked, and he was the most popular guy for 15 years.
Mm-hmm.
Charlotte even said, you think about it, when she first came out in Raw with her dad at her side, she was turning into her dad. And it didn't sit right. She did not want to be in her dad's shadow. Because if you look at it, she was doing the wrestling. But who was the star of the show? Not Charlotte. Her father was.
Mm-hmm. He was stealing the spotlight from her. And I think when they did that big breakup thing that they did, that big breakup story between the two, I actually believe that part of it was actually real.
I believe that Rick...
It was based in reality, somewhat.
I think Rick wanted it because he wanted his daughter to shine. No,
he adores her. You can tell, and he may have not been there early, but he's trying to make up for that lost time now.
And he's doing a wonderful job at it.
He adores her, but I think he also, when he came out with her, he missed the spotlight. You can see it. He missed the attention. He missed the spotlight. And I think it took the breakup for him to understand this is her time. And he's been backing her ever since.
I mean, the greatest moment I've seen in the last 3 years in professional wrestling involving Ric Flair was when they were in Greensboro with SmackDown. And Charlotte won the title. And whether it's real or not, Rick walked out to the top of the ramp after the match was over. And she was like halfway up the ramp. I think you've seen this, didn't you, George? And she ran up the ramp and she was crying and he was crying. And
go on.
And he was standing there and he was the one bowing to her saying, "I'm not worthy." And that is something you never saw Rick do ever in his career, but he did it that night. That's how proud of his daughter that man is. That's how much that man loves his daughter.
In a company where nothing is genuine, that was the incredibly genuine moment.
I don't even think Rick knew that she was set to go over that night because they wanted a true emotion from him. Now, mind you, that man could cry at the drop.
Mm-hmm. You could cry at the drop of a hat, and you could bleed at the drop of a hat.
Yes, he could. But I mean, that man could cry at the drop of a hat. The man was always, that's the one thing, he always put his heart and soul into everything he did in the ring, out of the ring, in character, not in character. He put his heart and soul into everything. And Rick will always be a great man, and we all know that eventually he's going to be taken from us.
Mm-hmm.
And that's going to be a sad day, if not as sadder than when Dusty left.
Yeah, it will be the end of an era. Because like I said, Ric Flair's always been a part of my wrestling life. And, you know, God willing, he will be a part of my wrestling life for the next 30 years.
Oh, that would be wonderful.
That would be wonderful. But, I mean, it's asking a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So, but, I mean, he is the GOAT, the greatest. He's the perfect wrestler. So
he's kicked out of some very, very dangerous things.
He has. And you know what? If anyone can live the gimmick, you know, if anyone could, if anyone could be the man, right? If anyone could be the man, it's Ric Flair.
Yep. There'll never be another one.
Never. So he was great. He was great. He's great. He is great. And
he's a great man. He will always be a great man. He will always be the greatest of all time wrestlers.
Yeah.
I love him or hate him. That's the thing. Love him or hate him. People fail to realize that about him. You could hate. I'm sure even today there are people my age and older who saw him as the dastardly heel doing the crotch chop on, the forearm into the nads.
Yeah.
In a house show in 1978 as a champion to to the top babyface there and defeating him. And they still, to this day, hate that man for that. I'm sure they're out there. There has to be.
But you know what?
What?
If they still hate the man or they hated him, that means he was doing his job.
Exactly.
Like, when's the last time you had legitimate heel heat for a WWE wrestler?
Miz.
Yeah. Pretty
Miz
great, huh?
Yeah, Miz is one of those guys that just gets under my skin.
Yeah.
And this is a well-known fact.
Yeah. But it means he's doing something right.
Exactly.
I don't know, man. I miss hot crowds, and I miss black hat heels, and I miss white hat baby faces. And I don't know. Like, Rick was the man. He was great. He was the sun that everything orbited around whenever federation he was in.
Yep.
Crockett or Georgia or Dallas or Mid-South or the AWA or Stampede or wherever he went, he was or the WWF even. Wherever he went, he was the guy.
Yep. You know? He would walk into that job.
Yep. And he'd own it. So.
And I mean for in that Royal Rumble match in what was it? You
92. Yep.
In that Royal Rumble match in 1992.
Masterpiece.
Who eliminated Hogan? It wasn't Sid. It was Rick.
It was Ric Flair. Yep.
Ric Flair eliminated Hogan. And people are like, and that Hogan was a prima donna back then. He did not want to put anybody over. He put over Ric Flair. Why? Because he respected him. That is another thing that is not talked about now. Ric Flair is respected by everybody in this business. He can walk into a Ring of Honor show, and the locker room, the seas would part. Why? It's goddamn Ric Flair. That's why. He has a presence of it. He commands respect. And he gets it because of who he is and what he's accomplished. And anybody that tries to minimize what he's done has no idea of what professional wrestling is.
Ric Flair is professional wrestling.
Yep. He could start his own promotion tomorrow and compete.
And,
he would be able to compete with Vince.
And not even that. He is professional wrestling for all the good and all the ill that is professional wrestling. For the holidays away from your kids and not seeing them grow up and the lifestyle and the women and the booze and all that stuff. But he is also professional wrestling in the crowds and the promos and the blood and the ball shots and the chops and the figure fours and the robes and the valets and breaking Dusty's leg and dancing with the girls with Arn Anderson in the background. I mean, Ric Flair is wrestling.
Yep.
That's, I think, the perfect way to finish. He is wrestling.
Yes, he is. Ric Flair is, was, and always will be.
Yep.
Wrestling.
Yep. So.
On that note, I think we'll end it there because that's the greatest way to end it, George. You said it right. This is Ric Flair has, 40 plus years, 40 years in ring. And that's, amazing in and of itself.
And it'll be 100 years worth of influence.
Yes.
When the three of us are dead and gone, right? Many, many, many years down the line, Ric Flair's legacy will still be felt in this business.
That's right. And I hope everybody enjoyed the trip to Space Mountain.
Oldest ride, longest line, right?
It's the Space Mountain.
That's it. Oldest ride in the park, longest line in the park.
Yep.
He was great. And God willing, he'll be with us for many years to come.
Styling and profiling.
You know it. You know it, man. The best. The best.
It's a bit, Rick, we all love you.
We love you, man. Stay healthy.
Yes. And George, where can one find you?
I am on Twitter at Atsaves, GATSAV as in Victor ES. I podcast on Two Guys One Sport on Twitter at Two Guys One Sport, the number 2 and the number 1. And you can hear my show every Thursday night live, 9 Eastern, 8 Central. And I will be on this show for a little bit too.
Yeah, you're the interim Phil. You're the interim.
I'm the guest star.
Yeah, we will be signing contracts after the show.
Oh, works for me. And Taker's Minion. What are we talking about next week? Let's give a little bit of a tease.
A family from the Great White North, and that's as far as I want to take it.
Yeah, I think that is fitting, my friend. I think that is more than fitting.
Legendslover, where can they find you?
On Twitter, Windstorm64.
And you can all...
And on here, of course.
And I myself can be found on Twitter as well at Takers_Minion. You can find me on Shooting the Breeze every Saturday morning. Normal time is 11 a.m. Eastern, 10 Central. But this week we're coming in an hour early because it's the, believe it or not, George, are you ready for this?
I am.
It was 1 year ago this coming Saturday that we did the very first breakfast show and you were on it.
Really? Oh yeah, for SummerSlam.
For SummerSlam last year, this was a shot in the dark last year, and it took off because that's when we did the show on Friday mornings. Remember?
Yes,
back in the day.
Takers, you and your show are a must listen to. I was at the office last week, kind of hungover, feeling like death, and you got me through it, my friend. So I would recommend that to everybody.
Yeah, we talked about the Mae Young this past week.
Nice. Yeah, the bits I heard were very informative.
Kind of sad of what happened to one of the contestants in that thing, though.
Yeah, it is. But you know what? Apparently she'll make a full recovery.
I am too. And, we talked about it, but that was the only spoiler that came out, which was fantastic.
And so it is a good primer for your Mae Young needs, especially if you want to stay spoiler-free.
Yep.
I would recommend that show.
My show on Saturdays is a spoiler-free show.
The way it should be, I believe.
We do not do that unless it's out there in the general knowledge. And what happened with Tegan Knox was on. It was out there. It was on Twitter. It was everywhere.
Yeah, that's different, obviously.
Yeah, but you could, like I said, you could find me on Saturdays on that show. You could find me here. I think we're going to be doing this live on Monday nights at 7 Central, 8 Eastern for the interim.
I'll be here as long as you'll have me.
Hey,
until Biff gets well.
Yes, and even then we might keep you around after that. You never know.
You never know.
You go
just
to
like wrestling. You never know.
Go to a 4-person booth.
You never know.
Because you are extremely knowledgeable.
George. Thank you.
I have to. And you figure with my health, my voice is going. It would be good.
Having you around is a great, you're a great sounding board. You give it a different perspective of things. You'll point out things that I miss or possibly that Biff might miss. So you're great to have around. We might make you a permanent part. I will discuss that with him.
Yeah, talk to Biff. I don't want to step on anyone's toes, but I think we, at least even for a little while, maybe a couple episodes, see how the format goes. I think we can make that happen.
Yep. But anyway, so there is a large group of shows that we are affiliated with, and unfortunately, I don't have that list. I'm gonna try to do some of it from memory. Let's see. We have the K-Side affiliated podcasts of Bros with Four Elbows, the Bitter Boys Club, and that's about all I can remember off the top. Oh, and Not Your Demographic. You can check your local listings on those. The non-affiliated podcasts, like the one that, but are affiliated with me through other means, through Shooting the Breeze, and here is Two Guys, One Sport with Crazy Chris Colgan and George Curtin Jerker Atsaves, a gentleman that's here tonight to my left. You got Fizzy's Wacky World of Wrestling. You could catch that. That's he's been doing late night or early morning shows, 2-3 o'clock in the morning lately, my time. Oh, but it's nice to see that show's back. You got the Ruthless Aggression Era podcast with Metal Matt. That usually goes on Friday evenings. You have the Violent Wrestling podcast with Ambrose Alley and Prince Moxie Lopez. Check your local listings on that. That one's kind of hit and miss lately. Whacked Out Wrestling with Thomas S.K. Green. Brand new one. Thomas S.K. Green and Prince Moxie Lopez. I have listened to some of it. It is Whacked Out Wrestling. It is crazy. And don't forget also we have AA's Ramblings, which is a solo show of Ambrose Alley. She just recently started that up, and we'll toss our support towards her. We also have the MLW network shows that we promote, which is Something to Wrestle with Bruce Pritchard and Conrad Thompson, and What Happened When with Tony Schiavone and Conrad Thompson. Check MLW.com for times on those. And this has been episode.
What about the one with Sal?
Oh, good God Almighty! Match Fixing with Don Sal Cusmano through Cedar Bridge Media. If you find Cedar Bridge Media at Cedar_Bridge, and you can also find Sal at Cusmano_Sal on Twitter. And ladies and gentlemen, this has been episode 16. Yes, we're out of order. 15 wasn't done yet. This is episode 16, a Hall of Fame induction of Ric Flair, or Richard Morgan Fleer. And for that, I want to thank George for being here, Legendslover for being here, and we would love to thank you for being here. And we wish you all a good night.
Thanks for listening, everybody. Good night.